prepping. So like this podcast is not supposed to start till 11:30, but it's starting right now.
Correct.
Yep. Just because we're prepping. And that's all we were doing was just prepping stuff.
We like people to see the behind the scenes activities that go on.
Want to see behind the scenes? I'll show you.
Paulie is here.
Right there. Water.
Paul E.
Yo, Paulie. Good to see you.
4 people watching on this Sunday.
What a beautiful day out there. Hey?
Everyone's lounging around on this Easter Sunday.
I hope it's as beautiful where you are as it is where we are. Because it is beautiful where we are right now.
It's almost like we're living in our own little utopia, which is actually what we're going to discuss on the World of Gray podcast. Because in a society divided by black and white arguments, we are here to discuss
the world of gray. Yeah.
See what I did there? I did a quick...
You went and turned to the other camera.
I did a quick pan.
This is a multi-camera shoot. However, the cameras do not speak to each other. We can't go to camera 1 and camera 2, but camera 2 sees one vantage point and camera 1 sees another vantage point. Welcome to the world of gray. I should probably memorize our tagline. In a world divided by black and white arguments,
we are here to explore the world of gray.
Not discuss the world of gray. We're here to explore
I will
the world
say
of gray.
That I flip-flop between in a society and in a world. I try to say society.
Yeah.
I do flip-flop.
I've heard that.
So I talk a lot about how we are not only in beta mode, but have zero budget.
Yeah, we got no budget.
We joke about Patreon, but like I'm not lying when I say we have zero budget. Like watch this.
Show them. Time to go to the Bolt warehouse. Yeah.
I still feel like you're messing with me. I don't think there's an actual
Bolt warehouse. I think that's what it's called.
So what we're talking about today, very simply put, Utopia.
Who are you?
Who am I? Oh, so
why would they talk about
professionals? When I say we are here to explore the world of gray, what I'm talking about is I am Kelowna's Cougar Meat Kid Colin Cutler.
I am the Flow, Mike Chisholm, and we are really excited to be talking about Utopia today. Like the description says, for about 5 minutes, and then we're gonna degrade into talking about other things.
Anarchy,
that's right. Which is kind of the opposite of Utopia in a lot of ways, is it not?
There's actually
no, I guess it wouldn't be. Utopia could be an anarchy.
Yeah, there's actually an anarchist group that tried to create a utopian state, and that is on my list here.
Okay.
1843,
anarchy. Just let everybody do what they want to do, and it's all going to be a perfect world. Is that basically the logic behind that?
Possibly.
Okay.
So Utopia, what is, when you hear utopia, or if you were to think somebody has a utopian view, what does that mean to you?
I can give it to you in 5 words.
Okay.
Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Or Orville.
The Orville, yeah, which is the beautiful, beautiful parody of Star Trek: The Next Generation. If you haven't watched, if you're a Star Trek: The Next Generation fan, you really owe it to yourself to watch the Seth MacFarlane show, The Orville.
So good.
It's so good. It straddles the line between parody and actual relevant message.
Oh, for sure. They have
in such a beautiful way.
Yeah, and I think that's just so Seth MacFarlane's thing. So you're saying to compare that to Utopia.
Yes.
Like for me, I never watched Star Trek, but in Orville, they talk about how because they create the molecule constructor or whatever, where they can create literally anything out of nothing.
Yes.
They no longer have the need for things like money.
Yes.
And now society is based off of rank and status and who contributes the most to the overall well-being of society.
It upsets the social apple cart.
Correct.
Absolutely. But there still is room for advancement. You can advance your career, you can advance your life, you can advance, but at the end of the day, you're wanting none of the basic human needs. They're there for you. And so to me, and even though Star Trek: The Next Generation wasn't like a perfect version of humanity, because I mean they still got into wars and skirmishes with alien races and themselves sometimes. At the end of the day, though, society is in a much more optimistic view of where the human potential can lead us compared to where we're at right now. I really feel right now we're in a big mess of static and black and black and white polarized people who just don't, not literally black and white people. There are many other colors of people, but I think that right now we're going to birth something. We're in a metamorphosis, and something's either going to happen. We're either going to be like the friggin' Mongols, who burned the Library of Alexandria and got rid of all this knowledge and taken a bunch of steps backwards before we can go forward again, or we're actually going to go forward and move closer to this utopian technology could take us to that place of and give us that gigantic aid to lead us to a utopian society. I don't know.
So in your version of utopia,
Yes.
how is that different than the common conception of things like socialism?
Well, you know,
How
it's
do you
funny. I think
differ?
socialism is a really demonized word. Many times.
I mean,
and
rightfully so, though.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Because many people have come with many different versions of what socialism is and could be. So I don't necessarily like to label it that word because that word carries a lot of baggage with it.
Would you say that? Well, so does utopia, though. Would you say that?
Not as much as socialism, though. You think about
Yeah,
socialism,
for
if someone
sure.
gets labeled as utopist, what are they? They're somebody who believes that the world can be a much better place than it is. If someone gets labeled as socialist, there's all sorts of reasons and things and things that could be labeled. And
so would you say utopia would be broader? Like socialism would be more of a political system, where a utopia would be a broader scope of how we organize as human beings.
I would say that that's probably the case. Yeah, I would definitely say that a utopia is something to shoot for in my definition of the word. Socialism is a way of organizing things. So they're two kind of different things in my mind.
What does everybody out there think? What is your version of utopia?
Yeah, what's utopia
How do you
to
feel
you?
about people that have utopian views?
What would be a perfect world for you?
Yeah.
What
What does your utopia look like? We want to hear from the people.
Yeah, the people. Come on in and comment. I turned on my watching party on my personal Facebook because the World of Gray, I'm not sure how many people. So I don't know if people comment on the watching party because people are like sending waves. They're sending waves on my thing.
Oh, hey.
See? Yo. Hey, yo. They're sending waves, but I don't know if that means that. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on. We're very, very beta, everybody. We're just getting our shit down.
Beta.
We're working on our 10,000 hours.
We're like a fraternity beta.
A fraternity?
Yeah.
Wow.
Beta, don't know what we're doing now.
Alpha, beta, kappa.
Alpha, beta, awful.
So I guess you have to use, what's your favorite Greek letter of the alphabet?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Alpha.
Yeah.
Or Omega.
Omega, I like Omega a lot.
Especially Kenny Omega.
Yeah.
Dude's the shit. So utopia actually comes from a Greek word.
Okay. And what's the Greek?
You knew that?
I didn't.
It comes from a Greek word, topos. Topos? I'm probably saying it wrong.
Topos.
Topos.
Yep.
Means place. Meaning no. So utopia was a term coined in 1516. I don't remember the guy's name that coined it.
Okay.
Because I didn't write it down. And it means no place. So basically, in theory, utopia is just something we're always striving towards. I feel like this is a great topic for the World of Gray, whether or not people think it's interesting or not. I think it's a good topic because it has tons of gray area.
Yeah.
And I think I personally believe that even though having a utopian view gets thought of as a negative, I think that that maybe it's not possible right now. I personally feel like we should always have a version of utopia as an end goal, right?
Right.
Like I get it. We can't do it right now, or like we haven't figured out a way, but why is it a dirty word? Why is it bad to think of the future to, feed everyone or house everyone, or like to get to a state where survival isn't the only goal, right?
Well, and Ross makes a good point here. Being fascinated with Brazil, the capital of Brazil, it was designed as a future utopia, and it's been an urban mess. And I think that many places, many have tried. You've got notes of many cultures have tried to build this perfect place, and I think the X factor is us humans, and we're the ones that it's I think a very butchered Gandhi quote is Christianity is great. It's the Christians that ruin it, right? And I think that
awesome.
might be something with utopia. Like the idea of utopia is great, but then humans come along with our flaws and our fallibilities, and we mess it up.
Well, I think you could argue that with socialism as well, right?
Sure.
At the face of it, if you know nothing about the history of socialism, it sounds like a great idea. Oh,
Yeah.
we're all going to share, the wealth of what we produce.
Yeah.
But then you have individuals that come in and want power. Humans were attracted, not all humans, but
Some humans, though.
a lot of humans are attracted to power, and it's really easy to take over and become a totalitarian state. I think that's where the confusion between a socialist state being far left comes in. Well, if it becomes a totalitarian dictatorship, that's not a left government anymore, right?
Sure
so
isn't.
it's like this weird tipping point where the further left you go, you become right.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So that's the political point of view. So there was a journalist, Peter Hitchens, who has a quote that I really liked. It's, "Utopia is only approached across a sea of blood, and you never get there."
Wow.
A little intense.
There's an optimist right there.
But looking at history.
How old is that guy? When did that guy?
Oh, this
quote
is
that?
a long time ago. I didn't write dates down for all this.
So he's
stuff, but I
passed
have
on
a few.
since then.
Oh yeah. This is like
he never got to see it.
1700s.
He never got to see it. Okay.
So here's the thing. We're gonna. I want to really get into the meat and potatoes of why I picked this as a topic.
Mhm.
So we're gonna go over some. Oh, look at this.
Oh man, that is a freestyle mic if I've ever seen one. Patreon.
So
we need budget.
all right.
Oh, look at this guy.
So
It's going promo style.
going promo style. Let me tell you something, brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, space is the place. Dig it. Okay. So that was two different. I don't know if you cut that.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have a list, and I'm not going to go through all of it because
Right.
it's a lot. But these
Okay.
are some utopian colonies that have tried to exist over the years. A lot of them in the United States when it was the New World.
Right.
So Robert Owen, it was a mill owner. So he went to America, established a colony called New Harmony. I think it's in the 1800s.
New Harmony.
New Harmony.
Oh man, if there's a name for an optimistic utopian idea, that's the place. Let's all live in New Harmony.
New Harmony. So
oh
there.
my god, I want to live there.
So
that sounds
right,
amazing.
doesn't sound great.
Yeah.
So there was a quote saying the only people that went there were lazy or crazy.
Oh no.
So what ended up happening is they had a bunch of people join this colony. This, I don't have a date for this. I have dates for a lot of the other ones, but they had a lot of people. I think it was the 1800s, mid 1800s.
This is in the United States though. New Harmony
In the
US?
New World,
In the
right?
New World. Yeah.
They went to the New World. So
Yeah.
in America, there's a mill owner, started New Harmony, and so a lot of people were attracted to this colony, including intellectuals. So a lot of intellectuals went there as this, place where they could go and think and try to come up with new ideas, blah, blah. Well, unfortunately, at the time, there was so many lazy people that joined this, and this is where
people going there to just live in the spoils.
just live. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, we're gonna go live in Utopia. It's gonna be amazing.
Right, and so the town wasn't
no more work.
wasn't productive enough, and then
Uh-oh.
all the intellectuals left, and it ended up just falling apart.
Oh,
So this is the issue, right? And this
Sure.
is where any type of collaborative society starts to fall apart. Is
Yes.
you're always going to have a certain number of people that don't want to work or don't work on it. But let's keep in mind, this is before the Industrial Revolution. Like all of these that
no
I have
cotton gin
here,
yet. No cotton
like,
gin.
there's no machines yet, right? So let's all just keep that in mind.
Right.
Except for,
We're gonna put a pin in that because I've got a theory.
sorry,
about
not
that.
no machines, but like not the
technology
we have
was
now,
not what.
because
Yeah.
one of these was developed during the Industrial Revolution. Henry Ford, I don't know if you know this, but Henry Ford actually, and to what Ross was talking about, this is in Brazil.
Mhm.
Henry Ford tried to create a utopian land. I don't know if you ever heard about this.
No.
So this is 1928. Henry Ford tried to create a utopian colony in the jungles of Brazil
What?
called Fordlandia.
Oh,
Henry Ford tried to build his own colony called Fordlandia, where the workers of Fordlandia were extracting rubber
okay.
for Ford
Motor cars.
cars in the United States, right?
Sure.
For their factories in the United States.
Right.
And it fell apart because Henry Ford was a massive drunk.
Oh.
So because he drank too much, it caused worker riots.
Wait a second.
and then
How
was
does one
eventually-
man drinking cause riots?
He probably wasn't paying him.
Oh, well then.
I'm
okay.
assuming it was pretty vague in the description. I'm sure you could find something that explains it a little bit more.
Fordlandia.
But at one point, the workers ended up rioting, and then it was eventually taken over by other. I think it still exists, but it was definitely taken over.
Right.
So we talk about anarchists. You're saying that this could definitely go hand in hand. So there was an anarchist group that created a utopian land called Fruitland.
Fruitland.
I tried to get a fairly eclectic
I'd go visit Fruitland.
variation of these utopian cities. So and anyway, chime in as we go here.
Yeah.
Fordlandia, so good.
It is
right?
so good.
I know, right? Isn't that amazing?
Fruitland is a close second in my opinion.
If you want to add why you think these utopian colonies fail, or what you think went wrong here, or how they could be improved, or what the future would look like, just throw them up in the comments as I go through them. But this is, if no one has anything to say, I'll just go through these. So Fruitland was a group of anarchists that were vegans, and in this colony, they actually banned eating meat. So there was absolutely no meat allowed. Also, on top of that, they were only allowed to grow crops that didn't disturb the earthworms, or not the earthworms. I did write it down.
Like the ecosystem around.
No, the earthworms didn't.
Oh.
Yeah, the worms in the ground, so it didn't disrupt any of the living beings in the ground.
Right.
As you could imagine, this limited the crops that they were able to grow.
Oh, hence the name Fruitland.
Right.
Okay.
They ended up having a really harsh winter in 1843, and people
Uh-oh.
almost didn't make it through, and then they all just left. I think it lasted like a year. I don't think.
I wonder if there are remnants of
going on.
Fruitland somewhere. Like, is there a new
Possibly.
city built over
Well,
Fruitland?
I
or
will
is
say
there-
a lot of these colonies that I'm talking about right now are still around in some facet.
Okay. Is Fordlandia?
I'm not sure about Fordlandia.
Yeah.
No, it was taken over, so I think it actually is still around.
And now they produce a lot of cocaine. No, I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. I don't know. I have no idea. I'm just saying that.
So we're
These are
putting it
words that
out
just
there.
came
We're
out of my
talking
mouth.
about utopia. What
Yeah.
does utopia mean to you? I also want to get into a little bit later how the term a utopianist
Yeah.
can be used to shut political arguments down, or like new ways of thinking.
Okay.
Because that's definitely something that's pretty prevalent in a lot of the people I follow that have very progressive views.
Right. So
Right.
here's my question about
Yeah.
Utopia. Does Utopia? I think a lot of people, they think of Utopia, they think they never have to work,
Right.
and I think that's shown in some of these
Mhm.
examples you've kind of thrown out there. And I think in people's mind's eye, they think of Utopia as not working.
Right.
So this is where I come in and I say, okay, I'm going to pull the pin out of what we were talking about earlier and saying, okay, is technology the X factor? Like,
Mhm.
can technology bring us to a place where literally, kind of like what the Orville does, they've got that, you can kind of make anything out of anything. That's the simplistic view of it. But can we get to a place where machines are doing the lion's share of the quote unquote work that needs to be done, and they're doing it in ways that are as efficient, if not more efficient, than what we as humans can do? Therefore, we now have more time. We're in less need. And we can then pursue the things that our hearts desire to pursue.
Yeah.
If we're taught to do that. That's the other part,
Yeah.
right?
So this is actually what the Venus Project and the Zeitgeist movement talk about.
Okay.
And that's kind of their whole philosophy, which is kind of where I started with my, not political views, but societal views.
It started your thinking on more of a
Peter-
grand scale.
And
Peter
people-
Joseph, are you going to talk about Peter Joseph?
Yeah, this
Okay.
is Peter Joseph is the founder of the Zeitgeist
Yeah.
movement, and
Always
he's
find a way to slip him in, don't you?
right. He's a political activist. He's, regardless of what you think of him or if he is right or wrong, which he may or may not be, and there's a high possibility that a lot of things he says will just never happen.
Sure.
He looks at everything in a systems view, and I think if there's any takeaway from the reading Peter Joseph's book and reading some of his lectures and watching the Zeitgeist movie, it's just that I try to think in more of a structural view,
Okay.
and from an outsider's point of view instead of how it affects my life. I actually was just having this conversation with a friend of mine who, Jordan's brother, who watches World
Right.
of Grey podcast a lot. But a lot of the conversations we had that were from a broader point of view, he kept correlating back to his own life and how it affects him.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, I do this and blah, blah, blah. And so that's where you got to be careful with these anecdotal.
I think that makes him a sociopath. Oh no, maybe not. No,
I
I'm
don't
kidding. I
think
think
so. He's a
no,
great
no,
guy. But do you know what I'm saying?
that's what
Like,
we as humans do, though.
Yes.
Is we naturally, and no, I'm just kidding about that. We're not all sociopaths. What we do, though, many times is we think about a change, and we immediately go, "It's our human nature to how does this affect me?
or how could it affect
How
me?
could it affect me?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree, and I think this is something that's really hard to get over, and it's the ego, right? And I've said this a million times. It's that center peg that we put into the ground, and then we just
Mm.
base everything else around it.
Yes.
And to pull yourself away and to look at everything from an objective point of view is a really hard thing to do,
Really hard.
but it can be trained.
Yeah.
And so I like looking at things from a structural point of view. So my point being to what you were trying to say, to build off of your point, is technology the X factor when we go through all these examples of utopianistic colonies that didn't work in history, right? And a lot of these that didn't work come down to not having the resources, or
Yeah.
not having enough people, or just
Or too many people, maybe.
Yeah, well, none of these I don't think really had issues with too many people. Actually, some of the most successful communities were ones that expanded rapidly.
Okay.
Even when they failed, they still had a larger expansion before contraction.
So Thanos is wrong. Thanos is full of crap
yeah,
because he thinks everything's overpopulated. You just underpopulate everything.
well, that might be a
little bit.
whole nother podcast, because I think there's
Avengers. You damn right. That's another
there's
podcast.
a lot of
Goddamn
gray
right it is.
area there as well.
A
And
lot
just
of
as a
area to
short
cover on
little,
Avengers. Sorry, keep going.
well, I meant just the overpopulation arguments.
Oh, not Thanos.
Not
Oh
necessarily.
man, I
that.
could talk about Thanos.
We
for
could
a
call it
long
the
time.
Thanos theory. We could call it the Thanos theory and
We
just
are
build
calling
a
it the Thanos theory.
podcast on the Thanos theory.
Okay.
I think there's gray area there, because if we're not putting the policies, procedures, and mechanisms in place to deal with a ever-growing population, then yes, overpopulation is a problem.
Sure.
The question, though, for that and for can we build a utopia is like you're saying, is technology the X factor?
Right.
And is that the
Is it the silver bullet?
is it the silver bullet? Yeah.
It may be. I mean, the technology has to get to a place. Like, I mean, I had a Beyond Meat burger the other day, and my oh my, is it ever delicious?
Yeah.
Vegetable protein.
Yeah.
Making myself a cheeseburger, and it was
Right.
it was amazing. Imagine that on a grand scale, but
Yeah.
on a grand scale, is it possible? Yeah, I was talking with somebody who's in the tire recycling business recently, and he was talking about how recycling these tires makes people feel good. It's an awesome thing. It's all these things. He said the most the best way to turn a profit, not a crazy profit, but to stay profitable, okay, to stay above water, to stay in the black, is to cut the tires into these squares. And I forget how big they are, but they're these little squares. But still we feel good about ourselves because we're recycling these tires, right? But these squares then get sent off in container ships to China to promptly be burned, so they can power their infrastructure,
Right.
and energize. And it's just more of the same. So at the dominoes that fall with that Beyond Meat burger, which sound amazing.
Yeah.
Once you scale that stuff up.
Yeah.
So like smartphones are
Yeah.
fantastic, right?
Yeah.
But once you realize what's going on in Africa,
Yeah.
because of the smartphones, because of the resources that are needed for the batteries and things like that, and the mines that are happening and the conditions that are happening there, you really only have a kind of a topsy-turvy sort of a thing. And so is there a technology solve that can take everything to scale for everybody, or is there always going to be a loser? Like, I'm okay if the loser is the machine that does 90% of the work for us, because that's what they're programmed and built to do.
Right.
But if the loser is an entire populace of people, then we got to go back to the drawing board.
Well, and this is the old ideology that inequality is the only thing that can spark innovation.
Yes.
So to kind of along the lines of what you're saying, can we get to a point where we can innovate without massive inequality?
Yeah.
Or is the only way to innovate is to is inequality just 100% natural outcome of inequality or of innovation?
Yeah.
Right? Is that just the only way?
Is the scale always going to be lopsided for somebody?
Right. Or are we going to get to a point where, it tips and
Those
then
scales stay the same.
So if you listen to Peter Joseph and the Zeitgeist movie, or Zeitgeist movement, at one point they were partnered with Jacques Fresco, who's passed away. He passed away at like 92, so the guy had a long life. But he was an architect that was trying to build sustainable cities, right?
Sure.
Not necessarily call them like, oh, I'm going to make a utopian city and try that out. He was talking about on a global scale.
Right.
And so if you listen to the Zeitgeist movie, they talk about the transitional technologies that would be needed to get to this point.
Okay.
But this is where I get really frustrated. Like I said, the two things that frustrate me the most with society is lobbyists and planned obsolescence.
Right.
And so we have this planned obsolescence consumption system going right now where we stifle a lot of these technological advances because we haven't made enough profit, or because we are in an industry that does something different.
Yes.
So we lobby against things that might hurt our market.
Yeah.
Because they have technologies and so this again, and this ties into
this is where capitalism hurts.
Yes,
it comes
and
back
this
and
ties
bites us in the ass a little bit.
Ties into things like when people argue against the Green New Deal, trying to get away from things like planes and fossil fuels. Oh, well, so you're just never going to have planes, and so you just can't fly, and it's going to take forever. We're going to go back to boats, and it's going to take. Well, that's not true. They've had technology like bullet trains forever now. The Japanese have been developing this for decades, and they're magnetic bullet trains. They're in a little tunnel with magnets so that you can't feel the inertia of these bullet trains.
Yeah.
And in theory, if the technology was where they want it to be, you could go from Canada to China for lunch. You know what I mean? Like these bullet trains are meant to be just as efficient as a plane.
Right.
Without using the massive amounts of fossil fuels that we need from a plane. So to say like, oh, well, that's just a utopian view and we can't get there, we can't change because this is just the way, it's just not true. There's Happy Easter, Jade. Hey, what's going on, buddy?
Yo, Jade, we're talking about Utopia.
We're talking about utopia or utopian views, or moving to a society where like everyone can be taken care of. But we also talked about some utopian cities that failed.
Fordlandia, look it up.
And so Fruitlandia, yeah, or
no, that was
Fordlandia.
Yeah,
Fordlandia.
Yeah, Fruitland, look that up too.
Fruitland, look that up.
Just be very careful when you're looking up Fruitland.
So we're asking that all these arguments against these massive changes and against getting to at least, and so let's not call it utopia. Let's say just an eased society, right?
Yeah, like okay, you watch the documentary "Who Killed the Electric Car"?
Yes, very good.
And I mean,
amazing.
It's not a new documentary. That documentary is old.
Old, yeah,
it's really old. And you watch that and you go, "Oh, this is where we miss the mark as society." I don't care about capitalism. I don't care about social. Okay, I like being a capitalist. I enjoy it. These are the rules of the game. So okay, let's roll the dice and take some turns. Okay, I get it. However, this is where, in my opinion, it's flawed because you got a technology in the 50s, 60s, right? Okay, where it was GM, right? I think it was GM.
Yeah.
And they had this electric car, and it's like, holy cow, this could change everything in so many ways. And it's like, yeah, but we're not gonna do it because of capitalism, because of how it affects the bottom line, because of how it affects other industries. You think about paper at the turn of the century in the 1900s. You think about, they're talking about hemp paper. And just look up what happened with that and how
a lot of hemp products
and
hemp oil, hemp fuel.
Right. There's an article on, I think it was, Life magazine, or it was from back then, saying that hemp was the new $1 billion crop. And that was back when billion with a B was never used. But it was so innovative. Yeah. But then people came along using the legalistic tactics that our society has created to stifle it right in its tracks. And that is where we fail as a society. We need to be and to me, utopia starts with leadership that only values how we can advance as a society. And that's where the value comes in. And if you want to feed the human ambition, that's how you feed the human ambition. The people that are the rock stars of the world, other than the rock stars, of course, because we need music, other than the rock stars of the world, are the people who can create these groundbreaking things that leave old industries in the dust that don't serve us. That is where we got to get to.
Well said.
Thank you, sir.
Jay Roberts is saying microdose magic mushrooms. That's an internal utopia.
Well,
it's a psychedelic utopia. Let's get
the crop dusters going.
That'll get you. So an overall arching theme of what you're saying that I would like to bring up is we need to stop using things like utopianist as a negative connotation to stifle any progressive thought.
Yeah, words just got to be words.
Right, because especially when we get into this technology debate, there are so many technologies that have been pushed down and stifled because they don't fit a market or the narrative.
Sure.
This is why I'm a big believer that a couple things. There shouldn't be a president. There shouldn't be one prime minister. There should be a council. Just like you have a Senate, just like you have a House, there should not be one person that has veto power that makes all the decisions. Like, we're in 2019 and we're still currently, yeah. And we're still living in this structure that has been around since fucking like medieval day. It's still a fucking hierarchy.
I love Joe Rogan's opinion on this. Joe Rogan had a thing in his last comedy special where he was talking about how if the founding fathers were here today and they saw what was going on, and they're like, you guys didn't write more shit?
You're still using that?
We wrote this in 1776. Yeah. You guys didn't write any
all
new
shit.
You guys didn't. Oh, so funny.
But there is some technologies that have been thought of or theorized or used in small applications that just have never been expanded on, that just I don't understand.
Right.
Like the solar panel roadways.
Oh, solar freaking roadways.
Like that. And I
look at that video. YouTube, solar freaking roadways.
Like the fact that if you put those
that makes
on,
me so hopeful when I watch that video.
I know, right? And it's like forever ago.
It makes me feel good.
It just shows how
I still watch it, and it's still like, yeah.
Shows how slow human evolution is.
You should have done that 5 years ago.
But if you think about the aspect of if you had a solar panel roadway road just on the Coquihalla, how many accidents that would reduce, because it has that heated, they're heated so that it melts snow away. Like that alone should be enough reason. Just the reduction of fatalities should be enough for us to be like, yeah, maybe we should invest in that.
By the way, lots of jobs.
Yeah, that's
maintaining the solar freaking roadways. It takes a lot of work to do that. Great, let's do it. Like, let's not take profitability and make it part of the equation here. Let's find out a way to do it, and let's do it. Because it's the way that you advance our society and make it a better place. Also, from space, holy cow, solar freaking roadways, man, that would change the complexion of the planet.
We can make little messages
for our friends out there.
Messages to the aliens.
Totally.
Happy hour 3 till 6. That's what, come on in.
Right.
Other technologies that I've seen been theorized, like we talked about the bullet train. Vertical farming is another one.
Vertical farming
uses hydroponics, uses
trying
less
to push
soil,
on me, you hippie?
Uses less soil, uses less water. So Peter Joseph talks about, because think about this, if we want to reduce the amount of forced labor in a society, which for me is, and it's not that, like, sure, I'm a little bit lazy at times, but that it's not because I don't want to do anything ever. I just feel like we should be able to get to a point where we shouldn't have to work 40 hours a week or more. I work more than 40 hours a week.
Sure.
And the amount of stress that gets put on a human being that is forced to work that much, it has all these negative externalities when it comes to our mental health and physical health.
Okay. Can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
What if you worked for 40 hours because you were serving society rather than trying to make money because everybody was on a...
This is why I'm saying forced labor.
Okay,
it's the difference between forced labor and voluntary contribution.
Gotcha.
Right?
Gotcha.
And this is why I'm not a big believer that if nobody had to work, that nobody would work. I think it would shift people's focus. I think there
100%.
would be a lull of time when people are like, sweet, I'm just going to chill out and enjoy my life because they've been so stressed out. But I think over time, we would all learn to contribute and preserve the system that gives us this experience, right? All we are as consciousness is an experience. And I think that having the majority of our experience being forced to pay bills and have labor, I think, causes, like I said, all these negative externalities. So we should try to build technologies that slowly take away the need for these survival aspects, right? Like vertical farming. If Peter Joseph talks about this, if you line the coastline of California with these vertical farms, you could feed everyone in the state.
Yes.
Right. So if you can make food slowly reduced to a zero net cost, you could produce houses cheap enough that they were fairly close to zero net cost. Like I say this all the time, just feed and house everyone.
Right? Feed and house everybody and give them healthcare, and then
then slowly transition to a point where if we made the main goal to make everything that we need and really want and isn't synthetically pushed as a want through marketing. No
Right.
offense, because I know you're a marketing guy, but you know what I mean, right? Things that
Meh.
are like pushed on us
Yeah,
as,
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
you need this, which a
Yeah.
lot of things we don't. If we just worked on getting all those those baseline things that we need reduced to a zero net cost, I just feel like it's Andrew Yang says it's taking the boot off the throat of the average person.
Yeah, and I think that's now
That's, to me, that's my utopia. That's it.
Sure.
I'm not saying you never contribute. I say work less. If everyone just had to work like 5-10 hours a week
Yeah.
to contribute and just meaningful work, or spent more of their time thinking and trying to come up with new ideas. Like,
the art would go through the roof, which is amazing.
Which is what we need, stuff like that. That's my utopia. So that's what I ask. What's everybody else?
Well, no, Ross was just talking about how Walt Disney, and I mean, Disney was a futurist in a lot of ways, right? And how vertical farming ended up becoming the design for Epcot. So those who have been down to, the happiest place on earth down in Florida, thanks, Disney. But no, like the idea, and that's me being sarcastic a little bit, but the idea that there are people like that, like Ford and Disney, and some of these, Elon Musk is a new version of that today. I love the fact that there are some people in some power with some vision, and we try shit because we need to.
Yeah,
it's the only way that we're gonna. And I think, and again, I call it a birthing. I honestly do believe that our society right now is birthing something.
Yeah, I agree.
And I hope that it's not a stillborn. I hope that it doesn't go back to, to go back to Genghis Khan and the Mongols, setting everything back 500 years.
Yeah.
I hope that it gets to a place where we can actually go through and burst through here, so we can actually focus on some things like saving ourselves from when the earth decides to stretch its legs and a super volcano goes off, and we're ready for it then at that point,
Yeah.
because right now we're not. Right now we're still squabbling. We're still kind of birthing this process. And if Yellowstone blows, man, we're back. That's it. 1,000 years more.
I think
2,000 years backwards.
I think in a lot of ways too, we are regressing as an ideology society. I mean,
how are we regressing? What are some ways we're regressing?
I feel like we're regressing. Good question. Thank you for making me prove my points.
Hey,
I feel like we're regressing in the fact that we're becoming more of a post-truth era and becoming based more on emotion than logical arguments.
Sure.
And I think now, instead of information just being out there and being absorbed and being critically thought about, I think that information is being narrated through emotion. I think that more people are reacting out of emotional reaction due to like their own survival, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they're worried about it affecting them on a survival level, instead of just looking at arguments as arguments, right?
And that's our point of view on a Sunday, Easter Sunday in 2019 in Kelowna, British Columbia.
Yeah.
Somebody who's living in Uganda may have a completely different viewpoint on the entire world.
Right.
And that's that topsy-turvy thing we were talking about, right?
Well, it's all perception, right?
All of it.
Perspective.
100%.
That's what I'm saying. We always talk about, I think I talked about this very vaguely in another episode, but we talk about parallel universes.
Mm-hmm.
But I think parallel universes don't just have to be like out in the cosmos and this massive thing. Parallel universes can just be perspective. Like my perspective is my own universe.
Yes.
It's my own reality. It's my own whatever around me. Somebody else's perspective is their reality. We can have a whole bunch of different parallel universes happening on Earth, right? The microscopic level of something is its own parallel universe.
I just want to throw a comment out there. It has to do with this, what we were talking about just a minute ago. Casey says, I don't have to work. I love helping and work more than I did when I made money. And that's true. He lives on a piece of land in northern BC. He doesn't have to work.
Yeah.
But yet at the same time, his days are kept very, very, very busy
Mm-hmm.
with all that other stuff being done. And I look at some of these other people who have the money issue was solved for them.
Yeah.
And how hard they actually do work.
Yeah.
A lot of them are artists.
Yeah.
There's no question, because they found some success in art. And it's like, okay, I want to keep going. I want to keep doing this. What if that could happen on a macro scale?
Yeah, and here's the thing is we just don't know, right? So when we talk about how to organize society, we just don't know what will happen if people didn't have to work. But I will say that there's a contradicting fallacy when it comes to the UBI argument, the universal basic income, is, oh, well, if you just give people money, then they're never going to work. But then when people say, oh, well, if we have automation, we should give people money because people won't be able to work. And they go, oh, well, you can't have people not work because people want to work because it gives them meaning. Well, I thought you just said if you gave them money, nobody would want to work. Now you're saying that people have to work because that's what gives them meaning.
See,
and I agree with that. I agree that
too.
work gives you meaning, but what does that mean, work? Like
Yes.
we slap, and this is these blanket terminologies that become so
Yes.
dangerous, and then people get shut down. Like utopia, like you're a utopianist.
Yes.
That's a blanket. What the fuck does that mean?
Yes.
Because I want a world that works for more people and shifts towards progressive technology and changes for the better.
Yes.
Like, is that what is? So I'm a utopianist because of that. Sure, I'm a fucking utopianist then.
Utopianist.
Utopianist. Thank you. But I just think some of
Yeah.
these blanket terms can be quite
They
dangerous.
can come bite you in the ass. Like the idea of, and where we're coming from is a perspective of, like, see, our generation, even though I've got 10 years on this guy or more, our generation remembers what it was like before the internet. Okay. The generation just past Colin doesn't remember that. They only remember with
we
the
were
internet.
just getting the internet when I was a kid.
Right.
It was like really new thing.
Right. So now you think about that. We're coming from this from the perspective of everything today is the same, except for the fact that suddenly this universal basic income shows up. What would then have to happen is we'd have to have a generation or two. So everything would have to change. Dominoes would have to fall.
Yeah.
The education system that we have, to me, is flat out based on creating a society of people that just shut up and go to work.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, from 5 years old, we're indoctrinated into the fact that we have to go to school.
Yeah.
Right. All day. Right. It's not quite 9 to 5, but it's getting close to 9 to 5, right? Guess what? You get vacation at Christmas time. Okay. You get vacation in the summertime. Okay, that's cool. But once you turn 18, now you got to work for that to get more of that vacation back, to get those same things. I'm in the financial world, and it's funny. My busiest time of year is September, October, November. That's the time where I make the most money in my business because people are like, oh, it's like, oh, summer's over, time to go back to work. And time to think about some of the things that the adult things in my life, the financial things that need to get taken care of because it's work time. You know, the same thing happens after Christmas. There's that lull after Christmas. Is like, oh, you know what? We just had this amazing 2 weeks, and then we go back to work again. That all starts when our kids are really, really, really small, and we teach them to go to college and get a good job and do these things. If what you're talking about, good little soldiers, good little drones, and if what you're talking about comes to fruition, not to be confused with Fruitland, if what you're talking about comes to fruition with even universal basic income, my God, we have to change everything from how we raise our kids. And we have to turn them within a generation or two into these forward-thinking people that want to contribute to society, not because they're taught to,
because they feel they have to,
because that's the new goal. That's the new job.
And so,
boy, does that sound optimistic to me. Holy cow.
But and we don't agree on everything, you and me.
No.
But I am 100% in agreement with what you just said.
Right.
And I just feel like when we say things like, oh, well, we have to be forced to work, or we won't work, we won't want to work, or oh, we can't have a society that only that just exists for experience and for family because humans have infinite wants. That's what's always said is, oh, well, you're never going to satisfy humans because they have infinite wants. Well, if humans have infinite wants, then how come it's $1 trillion industry of marketing? You know what I mean? Like we are indoctrinating people into believing they want and have endless wants. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but to your point, it's breeding culture.
Yes.
If we need to change the whole culture, like if we're going to change the economic system, then the whole culture's got to change.
Yeah.
And we have to want to live for family and for peace and for loving each other and for advancing society. I'm a big believer that the political system we have right now needs to change to like a panel of scientists.
Oh, wouldn't that be cool?
Like that's who needs to be running the fucking
Science
world.
Council. Oh my God. If the Science Council ran our world, I'd be so stoked about that.
Well, because what do politicians do right now? They squabble and argue about which policies will fit the best donors. Like that's really what we have right now, where all politicians on all elections are up for sale. They're corporate.
I shouldn't say all.
Well,
we live in a society where it breeds and it's there.
Sorry, you're right. Because local is a lot different than like national.
Well, and you know what? I don't want to paint that brush on. I believe there are a lot of idealists that are in the political game. I do. But at the end of the day, it's a cesspool that breeds cess. That's what
Yeah.
it does. It breeds this stuff.
I just feel like when you
and people
have
who are attracted to it,
branches,
they come to it.
when you have branches of government trying to say that climate change is a hoax, when we're already
Yeah.
past the point
Yeah,
where
yeah,
we
yeah,
can't 100% fix it,
Yeah.
they are not the people that should be running our society.
That's right.
Because they are
They're deniers of the truth.
They are a detriment to the
Yes.
advancement and the health of of advanced generations, especially when you get these super old Republicans like 70-year-old Donald Trump saying that he doesn't believe in climate change.
Yeah.
Well, fuck you. You're not going to be around.
These are the people, again, who killed the electric car. This is the same. It's the
Yeah.
same argument. It's
Mhm.
people who are stifling
Mhm.
advancement or innovation
Right.
for other agendas that
Yeah.
don't serve humankind.
Well, and then we're still running on this scarcity model where we
Yes.
can't produce enough stuff. And then we're throwing away 40-50% of food production in the Western world.
100%.
Like, we're living in this massive hypocrisy that nobody sits down and, not nobody, because people do, but we have a lack of sitting down and dissecting what we're actually saying.
Yes.
Because we're saying, oh, we can't do this because we can't, like we can't. Well, we can, we don't.
We choose
And
not
we're
to.
choosing not to. Like,
And
we
we have
got
a
to stop saying we
society-
can't do
Yeah,
this.
That's right. 'cause
We
can
don't
do
know
it.
how to if you want to say humans are too stupid to organize themselves,
Yes.
sure, I'll agree with that. Because we've
Yes.
tried socialism, doesn't fucking work. Turns
Yeah.
into totalitarian Hitler communism, right? I'm not saying like, oh, go back to someone else's idea of socialism. I'm not saying that works. It doesn't.
No.
Right? But neither does fucking capitalism right now. Overall, as you know what I'm saying?
Well, again,
It's
when you're
not-
advancing the society, again,
Yeah.
you go back to the people who are giving us the iPhone.
Right.
You know,
So
and,
you can't
those scales being
Sure.
That's not working.
Well, and just the inequality and poverty.
Yes.
Like if you're going to say, okay, socialism never works because people die and blah, blah, capitalism is the best system to raise people out of poverty. That may be true, but that doesn't mean we're at the pinnacle of human
Right.
innovation and evolution. Like,
Right.
that means that we're still flawed and we still need to move forward to get to a point where we can feed everyone, where we can house everyone.
And that's the irony, and that's the thing. We actually have the power. We may not have the power because so let's say climate change is a thing that is happening regardless as to how humans are living on the earth. Let's say it's literally the cycle of things. The solar system is heating up. We got nothing to do with that. Let's just say that that's the case. Okay.
Yeah.
There are problems that we can solve. We actually,
Yeah.
in our current state, can feed and house everyone.
Yeah.
We can do that
Yep.
without upsetting the apple
Yep.
cart too much, without having to reorganize everything the way that we're talking about
You
here.
wouldn't
To
even
become
have
utopian.
to change.
We can do that.
You wouldn't even have to change the economic model. Right
Right.
now, there's a
That's exactly right.
handful of individuals in the United States that could end poverty overnight and
Yeah.
still be tens of millionaires. They could still have $75 million each.
Yeah.
And I mean, yes, they wouldn't be billionaires anymore. You'd still have 75 million fucking dollars. And again, this isn't obviously a solution, is to keep what the system we have, and because it wouldn't end poverty forever, right?
No.
It definitely wouldn't.
But we could feed everybody on an ongoing basis right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And think about money velocity and how much that would boost the economy and how much money would just trickle right back up to those people anyways.
Then you get the conspiracy theorists, though, who go, no, hold on. The Freakonomics type people who are like,
Mhm.
no. We need this many people to die every year. We need this
Yeah,
many
for
people to not
overpopulation.
make it.
And
We
there's-
need this
yeah.
many people to, and that is a sad truth that there are some people out there who look at it that way.
Yeah.
Rather than, hey, well, what if we just educate it? And I'm not saying we go back to China where you can limit how many kids people can have,
No,
but at the same time,
but that is a fallacy, because Joe Rogan's talked about this. You could fit every person in the United States in Texas. That's
Wow.
a fact. Yeah. The entire population in the United States could fit into Texas. Now, I'm not saying it would be comfortable. You'd be like Japan, right? But you think about how dense Japan is.
There's a lot of people who move to Japan. They like Japan. They like to live there.
Well, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with Japan, but it's dense.
That's
and
good,
and it
'cause
has
there's nothing.
pollution issues. And then we
they brought us the Walkman.
they did.
They brought us the 3DS.
Just walk, man.
Just walk, man.
Yeah, I don't have to sit by my radio. No, you can just walk, man.
Just walk, man.
Just walk, man. You're good.
Yeah.
Listening to music and just walk, man.
Shine on, you crazy diamond.
So I mean, there's just these.
They didn't give us the
there's-
diamond China though. Casey says teaching our children to learn about what interests them and how to follow their dream makes society based on science. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. Wouldn't that be a utopia right there? You could literally teach children to figure out in the first 18 years of their life, or whatever it is, to figure out what their dream is.
I think also just we need a society with advanced technology where we can let children to like from, age whatever age you start school, 5 till 18,
Sure.
be also able to experience and travel the world. Like if you
Yes!
like, let's
Oh
say,
my God,
let's
yes.
let's do some utopianistic, theoretical,
Sure. Let's do some
imaginary
dream
stuff.
selling. Let's talk about the dream.
Let's say 800 years from now,
Mhm.
AI is advanced to a point where it can navigate any vehicle, ship, anything. right?
Beautiful.
You have an AI yacht type
Mhm.
boat that moves from country to country, and but it has massive educational screens, and as you go to these different places, there's this AI teacher that teaches you everything you're going to. You get to experience
She
it.
good
You
looking?
throw on. Yeah, she's very attractive and British. I like British. I like British accents.
Sign me up.
Sign me up. And you can scuba dive in,
She's
and
the
you have
taskmaster.
little like Bluetooth audio. So as you're swimming, it's educating you of what, like, you're hitting all those different
You're assimilating information constantly,
but in all different ways,
yeah.
tactile experience,
Sure.
audio, visual. And this is a big flaw with our educational system now, is we sit in a classroom, we have to like imagine everything we're doing. So I just feel like you and me may never see this stuff. And I think that, like you're saying, we're birthing something, and I think it is getting there. I think human evolution is just extremely slow, which is the one thing that always keeps me grounded and makes me feel, helps me from going insane, because I just feel like I want it to get there.
Except 100 years ago, the Earth looked completely different than it does now. Like how fast things are happening. You're right.
Well, we're fucking it up,
slow.
for
We
sure.
are slow. However, no. I mean, from an information standpoint, things we've learned. Like, I don't know if this stat is true. And we've talked about this in another podcast before. I should really find out if this stat is really true or not. But I've heard that the sum of human knowledge used to take 1,000 years to double, a couple thousand years to double. Now it's doubling every 18 months. That's what I'm hearing. If that's happening,
like we're just learning that many new things.
The velocity of
cool.
what we're learning and how we're innovating things is happening so fast that there will be that tipping point that you're talking about, that at a certain point, it's AI or something like that, a game changer will happen. And some people think that AI is the game changer. Maybe it's something different that we haven't thought of yet. Maybe it is something in a different dimension, or from a quantum level of physics, a discovery that can happen, where massive amounts of energy or molecules can be created. Like, who knows what it's going to be? Right. But the more we learn, the closer we get to finding the solution for this, to actually complete the birthing process.
I think another big
maybe
thing,
it is technology, maybe it is AI.
I think another big change that would need to happen is the ability to shut down bullshit. Right? Like, especially when you look at, and I don't like shitting on one person, but I'm sorry, Trump's a fucking idiot. He just lies so much, right? And so you have somebody that's lying and manipulating a mass amount of the voting population just to get votes and just to build an army, really. And he's the exact definition of cult of personality.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Because I've read comments of people defending him in the most obscene videos. Like, he vetoed the ending the war in Yemen, saying that we don't need peace right now. And people are defending him like, oh, well, you guys are going to all cry when he wins the election in 2020. Who the fuck cares about the election in 2020?
People are dying.
The fucking guy is promoting the worst humanitarian crisis in history, in human history. So I've not defended Trump, but I've offered my critiques of the opposing narrative.
Sure.
Because there's a lot of bullshit. Like, there's a guy who has a YouTube channel, it's the David Pakman Show, and a lot of things he says I really like, but he's so left that there was a video he had where he was questioning whether or not Trump is as tall as he says. Right? He's like, well, he says he's 6'4", but you see him next to so and so and so. First of all, I've watched Trump documentaries they're not necessarily unbiased, but they have like his friends on there, like friends and enemies, and it goes back and forth. And a bunch of them are like, I didn't realize how tall he was. Like, the dude's 6'4". Like, why is that what you're honing in on? So like that, I think that's a detriment when we're trying to explain to people the con artist that is Donald Trump, because at the end of the day, he's a con artist. He's done tons of tax loopholes. He's gone bankrupt just to save himself from owing money. He's at one point borrowed more money than he even had.
Okay, but again, not to defend, but just he may look at it from a different perspective, going, you know what? I just got the pedal down. and I'm living as hard as I can, and I'm taking advantage of every advantage that I possibly
He
can.
is.
And that's what I'm doing because I want to live the life that I want to live in this planet. You know, you judge
100%.
me as this. I don't
Sure.
think I'm that.
And that's a fine
instead.
argument. And he's just a human within the game of capitalism.
Yeah.
However, the second you get into the realm of vetoing, ending the worst humanitarian crisis in humanity, fuck you, I'm done.
Yeah.
Right. And I have defended the exact things you're saying. I don't agree with it.
No.
But he was playing within the game, and bankruptcy, part of business.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
I mean, it doesn't
It's a
justify
mechanism to-
the ethical morale and moral aspects of doing that, because sure, the banks didn't get their money, they take that risk, they're a bank, but a lot of people didn't get paid under those bankruptcies and lost their businesses. So I don't agree with that. That to me makes him a piece of shit, but you don't have to think that he's a piece of shit because of that. But if you're defending a guy that won't end siege warfare, like, this is where I'm talking about, this post-truth era where we're just in this cult of personality, where we're just so obsessed with clinging to one thing that we've clinged to.
Right.
And I think this is a detriment when we're talking about getting towards these progressive societies where we can all, get the boot off the throat.
So if I hear you correctly, you do not think that Donald Trump will lead us to a place of utopia? No?
Correct.
Okay. And I agree with that. I think that a whole bunch of things need to change, and I think it needs to change on local levels. I really, really do. I'm a big fan of our local mayor. One of the things that he has been talking about lately is climate change, and how it's happening, and how it's up to all of us,
and the tech sector,
and the tech sector
big
too.
time.
Yeah. And how we just, as a local population of 150,000 people, need to all just kind of go down the same path and say, let's make this a better place. Let's waste less.
Yeah.
Let's be more conscious on all levels, whether it's, walking to work if you have the ability to do that, or transit, or stopping the sprawl from happening, because we need to be more efficient on things. To me, if you get people all over the place just taking care of their yard, whatever their yard might be, man, that will go a long way. And the people on the national scales or whatever, it'll completely change the way that they think.
I don't agree with that.
Okay.
I do like the overall sediment.
Sure.
Sediment
is in a river.
Is different.
Sediment has gold in it.
Sentiment.
Casey, shout out.
That you're trying to say, and I think that we should do that. I don't think I'm not saying don't try to recycle and don't get a compost. All those things are important.
Sure.
But I think if that's all we encourage people to do, the higher end corporations will be like, cool, keep doing that.
You're distracted now. We're going to go and do this. And
they're going to use it to be like, oh, well, maybe it starts at home, and maybe you should do this, and maybe it's on you. And like, these little things definitely help, but they're not the solution. We need to start looking at future technologies, which is something that Bazaran talks about. Is he's big on the tech sector in the Okanagan, and he's trying to bring more young people into Kelowna, because the tech sector is where we need to go. We need, and not just for fucking profit. We need
innovation.
This is why I'm a big fan of blockchain and open source technology, which Elon Musk is has like a side wing, I don't know what you call it, like a part of his company, where it's, I forget what it's called, but it's an open source sector of his business, where he encourages everyone to work on projects in an open source forum.
Love it.
And this is where I just feel like if we did that, we opened up the intellectual property rights, and used blockchain to if people don't know what blockchain is, it's basically a network where you can put information in, you can add information, but you can't delete it. So it goes out to everyone, and everyone has access to it. This is what cryptocurrency is based off of, the blockchain technology. And I think you can do most of it anonymously. That's what I'm trying to say. This is why we have each other.
Yeah, one of the reasons.
So I just feel like, yes, we need to do something on our own scale, but we need to have these conversations, and we need to demand better from the people in power, right? We need to demand more than just a carbon tax. We need a future plan. I don't necessarily think that the carbon tax in and of itself overall is necessarily the worst thing. I think in some ways it can help reduce little things, but it's nowhere near the solution, in my opinion. What the fuck do I know? But in my opinion, I don't think it's the overall solution.
You know how to do a hell of a DDT.
I can do I'm pretty good at DDTs.
Yeah, I've seen it.
I can do a 6 swanton bomb. Like one of the best. I got one of the best swantons in the business.
Yeah, you got a good swanton bomb.
You got to get that neck up.
Hey, speaking of which, we gotta wrap this up here pretty quick.
Let's do it.
Now next week, I go to Las Vegas with the esteemed Kevin Jeffries.
Jealous.
Very excited about
Very
this.
just the
So,
Cauliflower Alley.
I'm going to be at Cauliflower Alley. However, on the Sunday, Sunday is my travel day.
Okay.
But I will be in Vegas. I will be in a hotel probably by 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. If you wanted me to kind of Skype in, I could do that.
What would you like to talk about? You get to choose.
I get to choose the topic right live in front of everybody.
How about this?
Awesome.
You get to think about the topic, but if somebody else comments a topic before Chisholm gets it out of his mouth, we will do that topic next week on the World of Grey podcast. I can't talk today.
I'm down with that. You can talk just fine. You're doing good. Hey, Hardy, look at it. See, he was here the whole time. You didn't even know he was here. He was here.
He's an enigma.
Yeah, he is.
He's the charismatic enigma.
That's what
Hardy.
he is. Yeah. Oh, he's a good boy. Okay. Well, you know what? I like the idea that we can keep moving towards a better society. I like the idea that there are people here who are thinking about that, who don't use 1984 as their Bible, and really, I hope that we can get to that place in this birthing process. Whether it is technology, the sum of human knowledge, doubling, etc. All these things can create that. I'm hopeful that it will happen. I'm hopeful for equality on the planet. I am willing to take my life and chop it down a little bit, so other people can raise theirs as well. I hope other people out there feel the same way. They don't just look at it the with them, what's in it for me.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I hope that we are moving towards utopia.
Yeah.
I think if you compare our planet to where it was at 2,000 years ago or 1,500 years ago, 500 years ago, I think we're moving forward. I really do. And I hope that is the case. And I hope you feel the same way. And you're also going to be this citizen of the world that wants to lead towards that.
Yeah, I'm always striving for conversations that talk about equality. And I just feel like it's really important in a society divided by black and white arguments. Myself, Kelowna's Cougar Meat Kid Colin Cutler.
I am the Flow, Mike Chisholm.
We are here to explore the world of gray. Peace. Love.
Yeah. We're going to finish now.
Said that before.
Oh, no.
That's what she said.
Oh, no. That is what she said. We're going to finish now.